Okay, so let's jump right in. We're going to tackle one of the most famous rules in all of human history, the Eighth Commandment. And on the surface, it seems so simple, right? You shall not steal. It's one of the first things we teach our kids. But what if the real meaning of this ancient law isn't really about protecting your stuff? What if it's about something much, much bigger?
In the original Hebrew, it's just two words, lo tignov. That's it. Super short, direct, and you'd think pretty straightforward. We all get it, right? Don't take things that don't belong to you. It's kind of the foundation for any functioning society. But, as we're about to see, the simplest words can hide the most profound ideas. And this is where our whole explainer really kicks off. We're going to peel back literally centuries of assumptions to find a radical, almost countercultural idea hidden inside these two little words. And it's an idea that has some pretty stunning implications for how we think about property, about justice, and even about our own work today.
To really get this commandment, we have to go back in time. The 10 Commandments weren't just dropped into a vacuum, They were given to a specific group of people living in a world that was already filled with other legal codes. And how those other codes handled theft? Well, that's incredibly revealing.
Okay, so look at this. The contrast here is just night and day. On the left, you've got Hammurabi's code from ancient Babylon, and in that system, the penalty for almost any kind of theft, stealing from a temple, breaking into a house, is death, period. The focus is all about absolute property rights. Your stuff is sacred. But then look at the column on the right for Old Testament law. The whole focus shifts. It's not about executing the thief, it's about restitution. You pay back what you took, sometimes double or more, to restore the person and the community you harmed.
And this is what really drives the point home. There was exactly one form of theft that did carry the death penalty in ancient Israel: stealing a person, kidnapping, most likely to sell that person into slavery. So think about that. You could steal someone's ox and you'd have to pay a fine. But if you stole a human being, your life was forfeit. This isn't just some random rule. It's a huge clue pointing to the massive principle at the heart of all this.
And that one clue, well, it leads us directly to the core idea that makes this commandment so revolutionary for its time. It wasn't just another law about property. No, it was this profound statement about what a society should value most.
So here it is. This is the whole thing. The biblical legal system was built on the idea that human life and human dignity are infinitely more valuable than material possessions. Your stuff is important, sure, but your neighbor's life is sacred. Now, this might sound obvious to us today, but in the ancient world, this was an absolutely radical idea. And there's this one fascinating law that shows this principle in action.
This idea is perfectly laid out in what you could call the night and day rule. So, imagine a thief breaks into your house. If it happens at night, in the dark, you have no idea what their intent is. Are they just there for your TV, or are they there to harm your family? The law says you have the right to defend your family's life, even if that means using lethal force. But, and this is the key, if the sun is up and you see that same thief grabbing your laptop and running out the door, this situation changes completely. If you chase them down the street and kill them, you are now a murderer in the eyes of the law. Why? Because the threat to life is gone. The thief could have been caught and made to pay back what they stole. Your property is just not worth their life.
And this is not just ancient history. Back in 1995, a man in Dallas named Shedrick Babels was woken up by his car alarm. He went outside with an automatic rifle and saw a teenager trying to steal his $60 hubcaps. He opened fire, killing 2 teenagers who were in the getaway car. A Texas court later ruled that he had acted legally to protect his property. It is just a tragic, modern-day collision with this exact ancient principle. What do we value more, people or possessions?
All right, so we've established this people over property principle. But the commandment actually goes even deeper. The Bible argues that stealing isn't just a crime you commit against your neighbor, it's fundamentally an issue of faith. I mean, yeah, hurting your neighbor is the obvious reason stealing is wrong, but the less obvious and maybe even more important reason is that theft reveals a deep lack of trust. When you steal, you're basically saying, I don't believe God is going to provide for me, so I have to take matters into my own hands and just take from someone else. It's a shortcut. It's trying to bypass the method God actually set up for us to get what we need. So, what is that method?
Work. Now, in this worldview, work isn't some curse that happened because of sin. Actually, if you go back to the book of Genesis, Adam is put in the Garden of Eden specifically to work it and to keep it. Work was part of paradise. It's the designated channel through which we are meant to create, to produce, and to receive what we need. So stealing is basically a rejection of that entire process.
And the New Testament really doubles down on this connection. This quote from the Apostle Paul is incredible. He doesn't just say, hey, stop stealing. He lays out a complete transformation. Stop stealing and start working. And for what reason? Not just to take care of yourself, but to be so productive that you actually have extra to give away to people in need. It is the literal, complete opposite of theft.
So, don't steal really means value people over property and trust God's provision by working. That's a powerful framework, but how does this actually apply to us today, in a world where, most of us aren't planning on robbing a bank anytime soon? Because, let's be honest, the very idea of property has changed so much. We live in a world of intellectual property, digital goods, and salaried time. And that means the ways we can violate the spirit of this commandment have evolved right along with it. I mean, think about it. When we illegally download a movie or some software, we're taking the product of someone else's labor without paying for it. When we're on the clock at work, but we're just scrolling social media for hours, we're stealing time. Even withholding money that you've promised, whether it's in business or to a charity, that falls under this umbrella. And maybe the most sneaky form of all is how we rationalize these things to make them seem okay.
Let's just park on that time theft idea for a second. Some studies have shown that the average employee wastes at least 3 hours in an 8-hour workday. I mean, that's basically taking payment for work you just didn't do. It's a huge, widespread form of taking from an employer, and it ends up driving up costs for all of us. And you won't believe how easy it is to rationalize this stuff. There was a story from a Christian bookstore employee about a local minister who would come in, grab a huge stack of vinyl records, and just walk out. When the employee finally confronted him, the minister said, "I don't need to pay for these. I'm using them for the Lord's work." It's just a shocking example of how we can twist logic to justify taking what clearly isn't ours. So what does this all boil down to? The huge principle behind the 8th commandment is this idea of stewardship. It's the idea that ultimately God is the owner of everything. Our time, our talents, our money, our stuff. We're just the managers or stewards of those resources. So stealing in any form is a failure of that stewardship. It's acting like an owner when we were meant to be a manager.
So, we'll end with this question. You shall not steal is so much more than a rule about not shoplifting. It forces us to ask ourselves, what do we really value more, people or things? Do we trust that our honest work is enough, or are we always looking for shortcuts? In our digital, fast-paced world, this simple, ancient command challenges us to think more deeply than ever about what it truly means to live with integrity.